Nerdchachos, how's it going? Welcome to episode 4 of our Let's Play series on Planet Zoo. Here we are in our zoo, Roars and Claws, and if you remember from episode 3, we built this, our reptile house, Slithers and Scales, and we also built our restaurant area as well. But as you know, we're in franchise, so we're having to deal with animal welfare, we're having to deal with all of the stuff that comes with it, and yeah, I've spent 3 episodes building, having set this franchise up for a tips video on how to set up a successful franchise, and I think we need to do a little bit of admin because these 3 episodes that I've built all of this in have literally been 3 solid days of playing and ignoring animals completely. So I want to spend the first part of this episode just really quickly doing some franchise admin, making sure that everything is as it should be. I noticed in the end of the last episode that I had loads of animals that were unhappy. I've got inbreeding going on. I've got all sorts. So we need to sort this out before we can carry on building. But when we do start building, the focus of the episode is going to be the gift shop that's going to sit here. And I also woke up last night with some amazing ideas for a gharial crocodile or alligator, whatever they are, the gharials, somewhere along here. And also, I want to use giraffes, reticulated giraffes, because I love them so much. I fed some over New Year at one of the parks local to me, and it was the most amazing experience I've ever had. So I want to build that in, but I've had some really interesting ideas on how I want to do it. So we need to not skip ahead of ourselves. We need to get the shop done. We need to move our tortoises because that's what we've always been saying, but that's ultimately where we're heading. We're going to end up with some gharials. We're going to end up with some giraffes and some African animals. So real quick tour of what we've done in previous episodes, just so you can see. So in episode 1, we built the plaza area. Very modern looking, very ticket area, very information area, few shops and everything, and so it opens up into a plaza area like this. Episode 2, we built the backstage area, including this very modern looking building, this very modern looking admin building where departments like HR and finance and all the ones that we don't have in game would live. And then we built this very sad looking maintenance area, backstage area that would house loads of stuff. So all of the details of everything that's in these are in the previous episodes, so you can go back and have a look at those as to what each of these buildings would do in real life and what would be housed within them and their function and everything. And then last episode, obviously, we built Slithers and Scales and we built our Roars and Claws restaurant. So that's where we're at the moment. Let's just do some real quick admin because I've noticed over here it came up actually mainly because of the message you get of disease risk and having a constant active disease animals, and it turned out it was because it was so overpopulated it was unreal. I just let these guys breed, and they breed like rabbits, but they're not rabbits, they're tortoises. So this enclosure very, very, very quickly became far too small for anything we needed to do. So what I've had to do off camera is I've just turned the contraception on for all of the tortoises, so they're now not. I'm just running the numbers down, and I do this with the other animals. I do this with things like the flamingos and the peafowl as well. Run the numbers down, and then I release them to the wild. I tend not to, where I can. I tend not to put them onto the market. I mean, sometimes I do. If I've only got a couple to do, then I'll put them on the market, but I'll only put the good ones on the market. I don't bother with the rubbish ones, because there's nothing worse than being on the animal market and finding rubbish animals. So I wouldn't want to start putting rubbish animals onto the market myself. So any of the gold and the silver rated ones that I don't have space for in the zoo, they'll go onto the market, and anything that's not gold or silver or bronze rated, they just get released straight to the wild, and you just get the conservation credits from there. And so I know that as a result of doing that, I take a hit to my guest numbers, but that's fine, I'll deal with that. So at the moment, I've just got my 2 animals, my 2 adults, and I've got a couple of kids that are really good rated. So having a look at the rating here. So I'm just going to wait for, and I've got a couple of albinos as well. So I'm just going to wait for these to mature, and then I'll contemplate getting rid of get rid of the other ones. But at the moment, as you can see, I've got quite a few. These are just the Aldabra. Is that how you say it, Aldabra? The abracadabra tortoises. And I have a lot of them. There's like hundreds of them. So I need to run those numbers down. But for now, I can't do anything else with them. Like I can't release infants into the wild or put them onto the market or anything. So I just have to let them mature. I could put them in the trade centre. We can only hold 30, and look, hundreds of them. So no. Same with the Galapagos as well, the galloping ones. So I've kept a male and a female because this one's about to die. And I don't think these two are related, so they can carry on breeding when I'm ready to restart the breeding program. But all of them have now got contraception on, and I just need to run the numbers down again. So I've set that ball in motion, that chain in motion. The llamas, they are relatively happy, but their enrichment sucks. So I just need to do some work on their enrichment, only because I put a couple of items in when I had 2, and they were happy with that. But I've neglected them since then. Now, this still does mean that the llamas are ridiculously easy to look after. I mean, all this time, literal 3 days worth of playing, and ignoring them, and all they need is enrichment because they've just done what they need to do. But they are inbreeding. That's a problem. But let them. They don't seem to be bothered by it. So that's an awful thing, isn't it? Animal welfare and all that. So I'm just going to deal with their enrichment, and they're struggling particularly on food enrichment rather than toy enrichment. So let's go ahead. Species llama. There we go. Llama. So food. So grazing pork feeder. Let's just spam a couple of those down. Hanging grazing feeders. And I think they're going to need more actual feeders as well. And let's do one of those feeders. There we go. So they should now be happier. And obviously the welfare of the animal affects the amount of donations that you get as well. So the higher the welfare, the more donations you're going to get as a result. So you kind of want to look after them. You do kind of want to, keep an eye on it. But we need to know as well, or we need to run down the numbers of the tortoises, because if we're about to move the exhibits over to here, when we build our gift shop and whatever, then we're going to need to only move a few animals. We can't move them all. We can't keep this situation for when we have our final habitat. So, we need to sort that out. And I noticed as well, I had a Nile monitor that died, so I need to get a new Nile monitor, because again I put the contraception on to stop them from breeding because of the space. So let's go ahead and let's make Komodos. Let's go get a Nile monitor or 2. And so I'm going to get another male and another female. Actually, have I got any already? Thinking about it, I had a couple of kids, didn't I? Komodo. No, I don't think I did. No. Okay. So I'm going to need, and I'm not going to use these for breeding. So I do want them to be immune. I do want them to have good immunity. So I'm going to get, and I'm just going to do it for cash. I'm not going to spend conservation credits on it. But I do want a relatively decent male. So you'll do. There we go. There's my 2. So we need to now just move them in. I'm going to put the 3 in for now because the other one's going to die soon. And I know that I'm going to be building when it does. So let's come on. Move it across the trade centre. Come on. There we go. Okay. And I think my Komodo dragons are okay. I think they are surviving. I've researched them all. Okay. Komodos. Oh, he's injured. I've already got 1, and he's about to die. Okay, better get some more Komodos then. Oh, I've got some in the trade centre already, haven't I? So let's bring you in, and my female. There you go. And now you'll see some of the other names of zoos that I've done, and now you'll realise that some of the names I've come up with aren't actually that imaginative. So, right, okay. And these guys I think are alright as well. So I've got my two Western Diamondback rattlesnakes in there. They've got their contraception on, so that's fine. And then I've got my boa constrictor, so I've got female in there at the moment. So I need my male. I've got one already. Yeah, there we go. So I need to put back in the zoo. Done. Okay, cool. So that's all the admin I'm going to do on this for now. Like I say, I need to run down the numbers of tortoises that I've got. I need to keep an eye on the llamas. I mean, they're happy at the moment. Their social welfare is okay as well. They seem to be fine for space. So yeah, they're all right at the moment. And then I've just made sure that my two reptiles and my two snakes are all okay. So with that in mind, I'm going to carry on building. So I will see you in the first update. Alright, time for the first update. So just before we do, look how cute he is. Look, just wandering away with his off colours. Bless. Yeah, so I've done some more admin around here. I've started to still transfer out the existing ones because they're starting to fight and they're starting to hate each other and they're starting to injure each other. So I needed to deal with that. And I also didn't let you know as well that I'm training the staff so that they're better in what they do. The vendors will serve faster, the vets will do their research and their stuff quicker, the keepers will do the cleaning quicker, and so on and so forth. So I started to do that whole part of the franchise bit as well. And in the meantime, I have done this as an update, a relatively small update that's taken quite a lot of work. So first things first is I've started the entrance area. I've started to make this out to how I want it to be when it splits into two. And so I've added these like ground level fountains so that kids can go in and run and play and whatever. And in an ideal world, if this was Planet Coaster, I'd have these timed and I'd have them as a show. But it's what it is. It works quite nicely as it does. And I've just added the little paw prints just to give a little bit of a cutesiness to the zoo. As we're going round past the restaurant. Have you noticed how much it rains in this game, by the way? Every video I do seems to rain quite a lot. So I've also done just this little flower bed here, just to finish this area off, and again it just takes the sight line away from the maintenance area that before you can see the back end of the building. So I've just put that in just to make it look a little bit better. And I've started to plan all of this area out. So this is where I want the gift shop to be, and you will not be surprised to know that it's going to have another terrain change. It's going to have more steps going up with a ramp. But then I think the llamas are going to come over here out of the way, sort of backing onto the road, and that's why there's a terrain change. I wanted that to be slightly higher, but the biggest terrain change is this bit down here where I'm starting to look at the reflection pool and how I want that to sit on the landscape. So I want you to be able to come in through the entrance and see down the hill into the reflection pool. And it's lined up nicely with the entrance. I mean, I've literally used the grid from the entrance to line it up. So that's going to be my next project. But I also want to have a little bit of a body of water here that goes into a gentle waterfall that goes down into the actual reflection pool itself, just to firstly keep that water moving. But this lake area is going to be a bit of a runoff from where I want the gharial or the crocodile or alligators or whatever I'm going to put house that's going to be over here. So obviously they're going to need water, and I want it to have like a bit of a lake at the top here where you're going to find all of your amphibians and whatever. and then the water's going to come out one way and probably end out in some kind of flamingos or another water-reliant habitat. But I then want a stream to come down this way to come into a lake here, and then down into the reflecting pool. So and I want it to flow down as like a, not rapids. I don't want it to be fast flowing. I just want it to be trickling and to give a bit of sensory improvement to the actual zoo itself, because then that enables me to build bridges across here and keep the landscape almost like level but also lower. So that's what I've started to do here. I've started to plan out how this is going to go down. So it's going to be steps on one side, and then it would be ramp on the other, so you can get down either side and keep it accessible. And the other thing that I've done as well is I've just started to plan out where the tortoises are going to be relocated to. And I kind of thought that they would end up in this bit of a ring shape where you might be able to see them from here, and you might be able to see them from this main pathway. But actually, if you wanted to get a bit of a closer look, then you could come in, and there would be like a thing in the middle here, like a circle in the middle. So that's where I'm planning the build to go at the moment. And then this gift shop I'm going to work on next. And it's going to be, again, the modern style, but I've got this idea for a triangular pointed roof that sticks out at 2 angles. So that's the next thing that I want to do and get that finished off. So without further ado, I'll see you in the next update. Alright, and here we are about an hour and a half later, and we have ourselves a pointy roofed shop. And this is the sort of style that I was going for with this rounded front, with the pointed roof sticking out of the top, and then the slanted roof for the main part of the building. And I don't know if I'm going to keep this colour scheme. I think it's probably a little bit too garish, but I'm just going to see how that develops as we build the shop. And then inside we have the whole wood effect going on. So this is consistent with the front entrance area that we had. It's all accented everywhere. And then eventually I'd put some shelves and stuff in this area, in the front areas, just to make it look like it's a shop area. And the idea was I wanted the shop to be very visible from walking up past the reflection pool. So as you're walking up the stairs, there's the shop in front of you. And yeah, I've also had to put in some kind of back of house area just behind here, because it needs a staff room and it needs electric points and everything. So I'm going to need to find a way of connecting this up to the road, which is fine. I can do that as part of what we're doing here. And then I've also started just to plan out the tortoises a little bit better. And so I've done a little bit of reading and a little bit of research into the tortoises themselves, and they're actually quite easy animals to look after in terms of guests. So they're not very shy. They're okay around humans. They'll quite happily sit there behind their fence and staring at people as they walk past and stare at them. But the one thing that I've noticed with all of the zoos that have them is they have this double fencing going on, and there's normally some kind of foliage sitting in between the two fences, and it creates a bit more of a stress barrier for them, so that they can hide if they need to. And so the propensity and the temptation that you have when you're planning these sorts of exhibits, in fact any habitat that you're playing in the game, is to have a path that surrounds it completely and everybody can look at it from every single angle. But the animals they will want some kind of privacy, and they will want some kind of ability to hide away from people. And so what you tend to find is zoos will line all of their pathways with this fencing, and they double fence it, and so you end up with a habitat that's slightly smaller than it would actually suggest, but they can put vegetation and whatever in the middle, and they can put trees up so that it obscures the tortoises' view of the guests as they're staring in. So that's kind of the feeling that I'm going for here. And you tend to find with the fences, because they're so low maintenance, they don't have to be anything major. I mean, I've seen pictures of some of them where the inner perimeter fence are just pillars. They're just pillars. There's nothing to stop them walking. Well, there is obviously, the pillars are so close together they can't walk between the pillars, but there's no horizontal bars or anything like that. It's just pillars. And then the outer fence is rope, and hanging rope at that. I wanted to go for something a little bit more robust in my approach here. And so I've gone for a rope fence on the inside, but on the outside I've gone for this more painted plank. And I've just varied up the colour of the browns. You wouldn't have, this might be a bit too much, but you wouldn't have necessarily the same colour brown all the way. And then I've just used a yellowy browny colour for the main pillars, for the main posts. This is only raised up at the moment because I've changed the terrain slightly. I didn't want it to be as high as it was, so I just need to move those down. And for the tortoises, your fences only need to be 1 meter high anyway. They don't have to be massively tall. They don't have to be like obstructive in your way. And I've just started to plan out this area as well. So I want a path that's going to run around the top of the valley and have this bit in the middle as some kind of foresty area or some kind of built up plant life area. I don't want to put habitat in here. I want the ability to be able to walk down through almost like a plant area with the lake that's going to be here on the right hand side and the hill going up to the pathway here. I want to be able to walk along the top of the valley and be able to look down, but also be able to see the tortoises from the left hand side as well. I'm not sure if I'm going to do the same the other side. I might do. And then I just started to put the keepers stuff in, so I can start to mark out where the habitat's going to be and where the keepers hut's going to be. It's just going to be a nice little square. And then the hard shelter for the tortoises will just come off the back of here. And then it also gives them the ability to hide as well when they're getting stressed out and they want to get away from the people. They have the ability to come back this way, and there's no path. And then still keeping this idea of the central circle here as well, so that you can come in and you look at either the Galapagos or the Aldabras either side. And I'm also toying with the idea of having multiple habitats as well. So what's weird is in real life they tend to be able to live like this. They tend to be able to live in quite crowded, cramped habitats, but in game they don't, because the welfare doesn't like it. So we need to sort of work with realism versus game on this one. And so I'm going to carry on designing this area, finishing off this shop. And so our next update will hopefully move things along. Alright, so here we are with a very pointy shop and a very small update. So the area is actually coming together quite nicely. It's starting to feel how I want it to feel, in the sense that the shop was always going to be slightly raised and then the pathway would go through and eventually meet its level. And that's what I've done. That's what I've done here. So you sort of go up through the ramp into the shop, and then if you were to carry on walking straight forward, then eventually the path that's lower down here actually comes up and meets it, and this is where I think the Llama Exhibit is going to be. I've moved the shop over slightly, hence the reason why this backstage area is slightly misaligned, and that's because I wanted to put this tiny little plaza area in that I was going to be able to put some picnic benches in, and then make a little bit of sense of a nature-y type fenced off area here, bit of foliage and everything just to cover the back, and then it also goes towards hiding the backstage area here, back of the shop from the main road. So I just wanted to put that little bit of respite area, so it pushed the building back a little bit, but it also gave a little bit more space for the ramp to come up, so it wasn't such a steep incline. And just like all of the other buildings that we've done around, I've just put this stone retaining wall in. I brought it all the way along, and I think you're going to be able to guess where this is going to be going. But that's the consistent look that you need across the zoo, so that everything falls into place and everything has a place within the zoo. In terms of the actual build itself, I've replicated the ceiling, the roof, in the sense that you've got the same zebra leaf archway things in the roof. It's on a slant, and I've now put the glass in, and I've now made the shop almost the shape that I want it to be. And I've also copied across the idea of the holes in the roof, and the pointy triangle things. They are an absolute nightmare to even put into a shop. I don't even know what possessed me to do it. I nearly deleted them and just had them as a rounded shop front. But actually, it looks all right from here. It looks like it should, and it casts quite a nice little shadow as well, actually. And if you look at that, it's a bit devil horny. So yeah, it's that bit's come along quite nicely. I just need to put the glass into the top bit here, and also within the shop as well. I just need to raise up this wood bit just to hide the back a little bit, and then bring this brick back out. But I wanted the inside to be brick as well. I wanted this to feel like it was a bit of a conservatory style shop rather than a full-on shop that we've seen elsewhere down the other side where it's got the proper floors and everything. So I wanted this to feel like it was a bit of a conservatory, and partly because it's going to be looking out onto the tortoise areas, and so I kind of like that idea. And then I might put a few more benches and whatever out the front here, just so you can sit up and see the tortoises from over the flower beds. And in terms of the tortoise area, I haven't done anything to it. I've just started the process of fencing it off. So the next port of call would be to fence off the entire thing and bring them over to see how they like the habitat and how they fit into it. So that's where we're at the moment. So hopefully in the next update, this whole shop should be pretty much done. I'll see you on the other side. Alright, look what's happened here then. So, the gift shop is now finished. It's all done, dusted, and as I pretty much wanted it. So I've gone ahead and put in the foliage, and I've sort of fleshed it out. And I've used the reeds just the same as we did before. And I've also done the foliage along the front here. And the cypress trees are now in. So that's now consistent with everything else that we've done along the entrance and along the other side by the reptile house. So it's all along here by Slithers and Scales, and all along the front of the zoo as well. So that's now consistent. And inside, I have just placed down some clutter, and I've just used the normal stuff from the Indian, the African, and the Asian sets. They're just the props. We're just going to pretend that they're on sale. They're not actually functional. You can't buy them, and we don't have anything in game that can represent that. So that's kind of where that idea has come from. And the outside is now done, so I've put some wood panelling along here. The glass didn't actually fit. It's sort of left, you could see the seam, so I just decided to put the wood panelling up instead, and then the glass frontage across the top, just to finish off that spiky roof, that triangle roof. And I've added just a sign on the front. I toyed with calling it gifts and souvenirs and stuff, but decided against it. Just Raws and Claws will do. And actually, I quite like this washed out yellow. It's not so harsh on the roof. And I've put the glass in along the top, so that's now consistent again with all of the other stuff. And like I say, it's the slanted roof. And then I've just done this backstage area as well. So this I will level out the terrain when we start to put the llamas in. But again, I've just started to flesh this out with some overgrowth. So I kind of figured that this would be an area that maintenance wouldn't necessarily keep control of. They would just be there. But it also serves as a purpose to hide the backstage area that's attached to the back of this building as well. So it just hides that from guests. It also gives the impression as well that this bit is much wider than it actually is. The reality is the path is just here, and I don't know whether I'm going to bring the path down here or not yet. Just for the llamas, the exhibit for the llamas would come down here. That's not our focus though. Our next focus are the tortoises. We need to get those moved. And so the backstage area and the front of the zoo, I don't know what I'm going to put into this gap just yet. I don't want to use the reeds anymore. I don't want to use these flowers anymore because it's giving a weird look. But it needs something. But I've put the trees in, and I've just put some overgrowth in as well, and I've just changed some of the terrain type to the soil, just so it looks a little bit worn down, a little bit unkempt, a little bit brackeny. But from the actual roadway itself, the trees block the view of this building quite nicely. So you can't actually really see the building from the roadway, and what you can see is of the good part of the building rather than the concrete concrete back. So that's where we've gone with the shop, and then this area in the front here. So like I say, we've still got the fountains, and I've just put the signs down. And I did this in the first update. You saw all this, but I just wanted to show you like the viewpoint of this and how this is going to start to come together. And then we're going to work on the tortoises habitat next. But as we're walking through, you then sort of see the tortoises in front of you, so you can either go this way and follow the footprints, or you can go up to the gift shop just there. And then from the stairway that we put in down here, you can still see that the gift shop is quite prominent. It's quite there. It's quite a feature. So you can see it's there, but at the same time, it's not. You can still go to the tortoises, and this bit's going to be all vegetation and whatever. So that's the gift shop. And I'm now going to carry on working on the tortoises. I don't know if we're going to get the tortoises done in this episode. This might be a 2-episode thing. But either way, I'm still going to do it, because I started to talk about the tortoises in this episode, so it feels like I need to do some more effort to get this habitat done, rather than wait to another episode. So I shall see you on the flip side. Alright, so we have a habitat update, and I thought I'd update this now rather than doing it at the end, because there's going to be quite a lot of work that's going to go into this, and it's going to be quite a jump. So we've got our gift shop across the way, and we're starting to now move our Galapagos tortoises across. And look at them, they're just there. Aren't they cute? Like, yeah. So I put a male and a female in a habitat for now, and like I say, it's very bland, very bare, very as it should be at the moment. And I'm going to be decorating this out and kitting it out. But I just wanted to give an update on how this is going. So I've got the fence, the perimeter fence on the outside, and I've used the wood panels. You've seen this before in a previous update, but now it's fully fleshed out, and it's the 1 meter high. And then behind that, we've got a secondary perimeter fence. So this just stops guests from getting too close to the tortoises. And if they are in any way, shape or form tempted to put their hand in and try and touch the tortoises. And even though the tortoises aren't shy with humans, they're absolutely happy to be petted. I read somewhere that they like having their shells rubbed. And it's the equivalent for them as us scratching our fingernail of our right hand with the fingernail of our left hand. It's that similar feeling. It doesn't actually hurt them, it's not ticklish or anything, but they like it. They like that feeling. So they can be touched by humans, and they're comfortable to be touched by humans, but obviously they don't like it if you've got thousands of people that are trying to touch you. So that's why you have these two fences. You have the first perimeter fence, which sort of keeps the guests back, and then you have a second perimeter fence that tends to be some kind of rope or some kind of wood paneling or something, just to keep the tortoises back. And if I show you the traversable area of this one, traversable area, there we go. So you can see that the traversable area goes right up to the rope fencing that I've put in, and doesn't actually extend beyond, and there's no escape points or anything like that. So that actually worked as I wanted it to. Well, I didn't realise in Planet Zoo, and I don't know if this is real or not, because I don't know enough about tortoises, but it doesn't feel real. They don't like water. They can't traverse into water, which feels weird. So I built originally this thing. It's like a little pool that had a concrete bottom, and it had water in it, and it was sitting up here. And then when I checked their traversable area, it wasn't actually available. So I sort of took it out, and now it's ended up that this habitat is way too big for them. But it's all right. It's fine. So yeah, that's where we're sitting at the moment. I need to do the vegetation. I need to sort of make this into a much more comfortable habitat. And as I said in a previous update, what you tend to find is all along this gap between the fences, you tend to find all of your information boards, you tend to find your speakers, and you tend to find vegetation that comes up and just makes this area much more lush. And it also creates a barrier between your guests staring at your tortoises and the tortoises themselves, and it stops them from getting so stressed out. So that's what I'm going to be working on next. And then what I need to be aware of is the fact that as you're coming in through this entranceway, I don't want it to be too overgrown, but I don't want it to be too open. I want it to be sort of, yeah. I don't want it to be like a petting zoo, but I don't want it to be hidden away. I want you to be. It's obvious that there's something there. And then I'm going to mirror this on the other side as well and put the Aldabras over too. So, but that might not be this episode. So that's a real quick update on the tortoises as they are, and I'll see you for the final update. Alright, so how's this for an update? So the two habitats are now done, and I've managed to move across all of my tortoises, and they are now sitting happily in their new habitats. And I did quite a lot of reading on these as well, and in a zoo they wouldn't necessarily live next door to each other, and I've just paired them together because they're tortoises, but they come from very different parts of the world, although they share a palette of ground and they share some palettes of the foliage that they use as well. So actually they're not completely out of place next to each other, but they're not entirely strictly supposed to be living next door to each other, one's from Africa, one's from South America. So anyway, I've decorated the habitat, so this is a very big change from what you saw before. Notice that the babies, by the way, can get underneath these rope fences. So you either, if you're going to use this technique, you either need to make your barrier outside your perimeter fence, the wood perimeter fence, or make your rope lower. Because this here, as it is, they can get under there and they'll escape because they're trouble. So this is what your rope barriers would need to look like if you're wanting to use rope barriers to stop your babies from getting out. So yeah, it's come together nicely, and you've got this darkness. You've got this central hub in the middle, and I've sort of just done I need to put some foliage in the middle here, but I'm not sure which of the plants from which of the palette to borrow. I mean, these pink flowers, I don't even know what they're called. They are beautiful, such a lovely colour. So yeah, you've got this like awning area in the middle, and I've put some picnic benches just for you to be able to sit down and have some food surrounded by tortoises, if that's what you like. And I've put all of the habitat signs around as well, and I've kept the theme of the habitat signs the same for both sides, and along with the fences and along with the style as well, just purely because it brings the area quite nicely around it. The tortoises have got all of this back area to get away from the people if that's what they want to do, and then you've got this area at the front as well. I put in the pool, but it's not a pool. I just wanted to use it because I spent time building it. It is traversable, they can go in and use it and we can pretend that it's water, but yeah, neither of the tortoises have any kind of traversable area when it comes to water, and I think that's a bit weird, but it is what it is, it's the game, so I can't change that. But I just wanted to include it just to, if anything, because we like using the word facsimile. It's a facsimile of a pool. So yeah, that's turned out like nicely. I like how they look. Well, and I did some reading up on both of the tortoises as well. And say because, like I said, they share a palette of landscape and they share a palette of foliage. It's worked out well, but they like sparse land. So they like enough room to move around, but they also like enough foliage to hide as well. And when they're in their foliage, they have to have it sort of like close together, and it has to be a bit foresty. So that's why it's all in areas like this, and then vast areas of outside. I just thought, actually, I haven't put any enrichment items in the Aldabras. I should do that. Actually, before the next episode. So having a look around then. So we've done a lot this episode. So we're gonna do a tour so you can see how I've done everything. Fences are literally just the pillars and the rope, and these are just the planks and pillars. Nothing special there. Then we've got the stone path comes in here. This awning, I just did one section, so it's just the same planks I've used on the windows, and I did one section, copied it across to the 180 degrees, copied it across to the 360, and then once that was done, I was then able to rotate everything around as well, and it just creates perfect symmetry. So you don't have to lay out this line and this line and this line. You can just do it as a section, and there's brilliant tutorials out there for you to see from other creators. And it's raining again. It really rains so much in this zoo. So keeper hut. I wanted to keep this really quite simple, and I wanted to use a bit like rundown wood. I didn't want to go for a theme because I knew that the two tortoises are from different parts of the world, and other than the foliage palette and the terrain palette, they don't share anything else building wise. So I ended up using the Arctic wood because it looks like it's rundown wood, and it looks like it's like a shack in the middle of the forest or in the middle of somewhere. So that's what I've done. I've just used that. And inside, I've got a couple of keeper huts, and I've also got an electric facility and a water facility as well. Not decorated. Don't bother decorating the inside when you can't see it. There's absolutely no point. But it looks cool from here, and I wanted, again, it's this whole idea of stepping things down so it's not necessarily intrusive of the guest view. So from here you can see into the habitats, and you can see the foliage difference and the terrain difference and stuff. And the keeper's hut is there, it's very much there, and you would see these in real life, and I've seen pictures of other zoos where it is like that in real life. You see the keeper's huts, and actually you can see into the keeper's huts, and sometimes for guests, I know the game doesn't like it, but sometimes for guests that's actually quite interesting. People do want to see in, so I've decided to make a bit of a feature of the hut, but keep it very simple. Just asphalt roof and the Arctic wood walls, and then I've just cluttered it up a little bit. Just put a crate out the front there, and I've put a couple of crates out the back here as if it would be just an area. And I need to tidy this up, but I'm going to tidy this area up when I actually put something on the back here or along the side here. Not sure what's going to go in there at the moment, so that's fine. Okay, so the other area that we've done then is our Raws and Claws shop, which is now going quite nicely, and now it's opposite now it's actually opposite something. It looks much better than it did when it was just blank space. The sight line is now very much more evident of what I was trying to achieve, with it being set slightly up, in the sense that you can now sit here and look over into the tortoise habitats and see what they're doing. And this now fits in much nicer into the area. It creates a much nicer sight line, but it also separates it enough so that the hustle and bustle of the lower path and the upper path are two very different areas of the zoo. I did just have to put this back in. Completely forgot that it was powering the information boards at the very front of the entranceway, so I just had to put this back in to power them again. Unfortunately, I don't like that. Yeah, you'd need a path, but it's fine. Let's just wade. There you go, like that, just like that. Wade through the reeds to get there. Then I did some of this entrance area as well, so I just decorated it slightly so it's less bland. Put these lovely little fountains in. I quite like how they look as well. They're sitting quite nicely on the entranceway. And then we've also started this reflection pool, and I just started to plan out where I want the reflection pool, and this is going to be coming in future episodes. But I wanted to get this out of the way with and on the sight line as quickly as I can, so that I can work around it and work around what I want from it, from the surrounding areas. And the seating area particularly was an idea that I thought actually you'd want to sit at the top of the hill and look down on it, so I wanted to get that in place because I was decorating this area. And we've also started the path that would come down to this area as well. So we've done the step version of the path, and then there would be a ramp version this side. So yeah, that's come together. And then you've also got your paw prints on the floor. Just adds a bit of adventure to the actual entranceway. I've seen this a couple of times in zoos and areas and stuff. So in terms of how things are put together, if you haven't already seen it, so you may have skipped to this part of the video just to see how it turned out. So it's all the same building principles as the other buildings. So it's the slanted roof on a jaunty angle. You've got your giraffe print. I think these are called leaves, but they are giraffes. It's a giraffe print. archway with glass sunk into it. The roof is just art shapes, just placed down, and then it's just put into a pattern. These triangles were an absolute pain to do, and I'm still not entirely happy with how it interacts with the roof, but it is what it is. It's the best that you can do with a bad design. Particularly as I was quite adamant that I wanted it. So they're just beams put into a triangle, and then and I laid them flat on the ground into a triangle, and then filled in with art shapes of various different sizes, and then lifted into place, and then lifted up into the angle that I wanted. And then once that was in, copied that and pasted it across here. The windows themselves, they're a very similar build. They're just the I beams, the girders, and then this at the top, they're the girders laid on top of each other three times. So there's three in there, and they're staggered down slightly to create that line, and then filled in with glass. The front of the spikes, they're just glass, and then these are wood beams, not wood beams, sorry, wood planks. That are just lined up with the angle of the roof. I think I probably should have put a door here, because it's a shame that we've got nothing in Planet Zoo to stop the guests from going through walls, and we're going to find this a lot, especially when we come to some of the buildings, and we've seen it already, obviously. The clutter inside, that's just your standard your standard stuff that you find from your palette of building materials, and I just built these shelves out of the planks. Again, nothing particularly special with them, but inside it's all housing the shops here, and a couple of ATMs. I've realised that I've got no ATMs at all in the zoo, and then these are all the stone wall building sets. So I've used those everywhere else, and then just cypress trees that line it all off. So it's looking good. I like how this entrance area is coming together, and I think it's going to be even better when all of this is done. So this is going to be fenced off up the top here, and it's going to be walled off, and I want a wall to go down this way. And then all of this is going to be foliage. It's going to be like a forest area, just to separate everything, so that you can sort of have a dappled view. And then this is going to be the lake area. That's going to create a waterfall that's going to go down into the reflective pool. And I think this lake is then going to be fed by a river that goes to the Llama exhibit we're going to do later. And so that's everything, I think, for this episode. Oh no, I need to show you the backstage. I think I've already shown this to you, but it's just standard backstage that I've tagged onto the back. It houses a staff room, and it houses a power generator, and I've just cluttered it up with your aircon units and your Indian market stuff. The bins that I found on the workshop that I've used in a previous episode, Mr. Domez's bins from workshop. This is part of the street set. And then just a couple of signs. I didn't want to do too much. And then when I come to do the llama exhibit that's going to be here, I need to just fill out this area and tidy it up and make it more sort of backstagey. And I still need to decide what I'm going to do here. But this is how the zoo is looking as a whole overall tour now. So you've got your main central area. So this is where you get your tickets. This is where you get your information, and there's some souvenirs and everything, with your patio area, and you grab your tickets and you go through the noisy entrance, and then you'd be able to look out on the reflection pool, which I can't wait to get that done. That's going to be so good. And you can either go right and you can go down to Slithers and Scales and the restaurant, or you can go left and you can go and see tortoises, or you can go buy gifts. So in episode 3 we did this area, so your Roars and Claws restaurant, and then we did Slithers and Scales in episode 3 as well, where we pulled all of this together. Episode 2 was all around the backstage area and the admin building. There, and that's the zoo as it stands. I've got rid of the first of the habitats. I'm going to get rid of this one as well, but there were some babies that I was waiting to mature to get out because I didn't want to put them into the habitat. So thank you so much for joining me on today's episode 4. You know what to do if you want to be told of new episodes of this series coming. Subscribe and put a comment and leave a like and stuff, and then you'll get told. Right, as you subscribe, you'll then get told of. You know what to do. It's YouTube. You're not stupid, are you? So thank you very much. Look after yourselves, and I will see you for episode 5. Take care.